Good afternoon and happy Friday to y'all. Sean Talks Cybersecurity here with March 28th. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's Friday, March 28th already. And happy to be back. Happy to be doing some more TryHackMe with y'all. So basically continuing on with my series of just basically becoming a master hacker. That's the goal here. I want to go ahead and in the end earn my OSCP. I'm working on a couple different certifications right now, working on my CISSP, my OSCP, and also some AWS certifications as well. So yeah, basically, thanks for riding along on the journey here with me, but let's go ahead and dive in. All right. So let's see what's going on here. This should be up, but for some reason it's not. Always with the technical problems, but that's okay because we'll get it working here. It basically just must not like it. Must not be. Well, anyway, there we go. This will work. Okay. Let's dive in. So we got some stuff about managing users in AD. First task as the new domain administrator is to check the existing AD OUs and users as some recent changes have happened to the business. You have been given the following organizational chart and are expected to make changes to the AD to match it. So we have management. Daniel is our general manager. We have Mark, who is our marketing specialist. Sales is Sophie and Thomas. Philip, Mary, and Claire are our IT department. Okay, so deleting extra OUs and users. The first thing you should notice is that there is an additional department OU in your current AD configuration that doesn't appear in the chart. We've been told it was closed due to budget cuts and should be removed for the domain. If you try to right-click and delete the OU, you'll get the following error. You do not have sufficient privileges to delete or this object is protected from accidental deletion. Okay, so let's do this. Let's fire up our Windows box from yesterday, and then we'll dive in here. So, yeah, basically, let's see. All right, so by default, OUs are protected against accidental deletion, right? To delete the OU, we need to enable the advanced features in the view menu. And then this will show you some additional containers and enable you to disable the accidental deletion protection. To do so, right-click the OU and go to Properties. You'll find a checkbox in the Object tab to disable the protection. Be sure to uncheck the box and try deleting the OU again. You'll be prompted to confirm that you want to delete the OU, and as a result, any groups, users groups or OUs under it will also be deleted. After deleting the extra OU, you should notice that that for some of the departments, the users in the AD don't match the ones in our organizational chart. Create and delete users as needed to match them. Okay. So pretty much a standard AD, just like what you do in a normal AD environment. Okay. So let's scroll back up here. Let's try to get connected up here. Wait for it all to load. Okay, just waiting here. I guess it's not gonna want to let me connect up, but there we go. Now we're good. All right. So hope you guys are having a good Friday. I mean, it's 2 o'clock, 2:08 p.m. on Friday, March 28th, and you know, just kind of been taking it 1 minute at a time on my end. Everybody had the flu in my house, and so I'm just happy that the flu's gone at this point and that life is kind of returning back to normal on my end. So happy to be back and doing this this TryHackMe stuff. At some point later down the line, I'm going to do some Hack the Box, but this is just kind of one step at a time, kind of where we're at with things. But This is really being slow today, and I'm so sorry about that. But, okay, so let's get into AD. Once we load up here. All right, so now we have this. So we want to go up to View, and then we want to go to Advanced Features. And that's good. So to delete the OU, we need to enable Advanced Features in the View menu, and then you'll get Properties. So what do we want to delete here? First thing that you should notice is there's an additional department OU in your current AD configuration. Additional department OU. So we have marketing, right? We have sales, IT, and then we have research and development. So this is the one that it wants us to get rid of. So this will show you some additional containers and enable you to disable the accidental deletion protection. You'll find the checkbox in the object tab to disable the protection. Right, okay, so, and if we try to delete it, it's not going to let us, right? Yeah, you don't have sufficient privileges, right? Okay, so we want to go to Properties, we want to go to Object, and then uncheck this Protect, click Apply, and then come back into Research and Development, and delete that guy out because we do not need that. And so now we get a confirm subtree deletion. Object research and development contains other objects. Are you sure you want to delete other research and development and all of the research, the objects it contains? Yeah, so in this case we do want to delete it. So yeah, we're gonna click yes, and now that's all gone. Okay, so be sure to uncheck the box and try deleting the OU again, which we've done. After deleting the extra OU, you should notice that some of the departments users in the AD don't match the ones in our organizational chart. So we need to come up here and organize this correctly. So IT should have Philip, Mary, and Claire, which we do have. Management should be Daniel, correct. Marketing should be Mark. And then sales should be Sophie and Thomas. So Sophie and Thomas, so we don't need Robert or Christine. We're going to delete them. Yes. Robert and Christine, they are gone. And so now they've been deleted. Now, typically, you don't always delete users, but you can. But yeah, I mean, basically what you would want to normally do is you'd want to disable an account instead of deleting a user, because then you have to go through the process of recreating them unless you're sure they should be deleted. And if that's the case, then you can delete it. But I've found that in system administration, usually the standard is to disable accounts before you go deleting things. Just keep that in mind as you move along here in your career. So delegation. One of the nice things you can do in AD is to give specific users some control over some OUs. This process is known as delegation and allows you to grant users specific privileges to perform advanced tasks on OUs without needing a domain administrator to step in. One of the most common use cases for this is granting IT support the privileges to reset other lower privilege users' passwords. According to our organizational chart, Philip is in charge of IT support, so we'd probably want to delegate the control of resetting passwords over the sales, marketing, and management OUs to him. So we got Philip right here. For this example, we'll delegate control over the sales OU to Philip. So click on him, and then we're going to delegate control. I'm not sure why we're not seeing that. Oh, you know what? I guess we just want to have, which ones? We want to have sales, marketing, and management. So we'll click on sales, delegate control, hit next, add, and we want to have Philip. So make sure we got that. Yep. Okay. next. And we want him to be able to, so this will open a new window, yes, yada yada. Reset users' passwords, yes. And let's go back through down here. So we got create, delete, and manage user accounts, reset user passwords, enforce passwords, read all user info, create, delete, and manage groups, modify membership of a group, manage group policy links, generate results instead of policies. So you can see here there's a lot of things we could do. You can even create a custom task to delegate. So you could really go ahead and dive deep into this if you wanted to. So click next a couple times, and now Philip should be able to reset passwords. And so we'll hit finish. And now Philip can reset the passwords for any user in the sales department. Right. While you'd probably want to repeat these steps to delegate password resets for marketing and management, we'll leave it here for this task. You're free to continue to configure the rest of the OUs if you so desire. Let's use Philip's account to try to reset Sophie's password. So here are Philip's credentials for you to log in via RDP. Okay. So let's see. Let's sign out. See if we can sign in using Philip here. And of course, it's not going to let me. Although maybe, I doubt it. Yeah, look at that. Okay, cool. We can ideally do this. Okay, so when connecting via RDP, so you want to have THM/Philip connect up. No. Nope. Okay. Let's see. Remote desktop, yeah. And then the computer would be, what is the, way may be tempted to go to Active Directory, users and computers, to try and test Philip's new powers. He doesn't really have the privileges to open it, so you'll have to use other methods to do password resets. In this case, we'll use PowerShell. So if we're logged in as Philip here, we would use PowerShell to do this. Okay, so curious. What is the computer name that we're logged into? AD Basics V12. Let's see if we can connect here. Oh, I guess I need the basics .thm.local. Maybe. What is this machine? Let me see here. So AD Basics. Let's see. Not computer management. This isn't what I want. We want system information. That's what we want. System information. All right, so let's see. We'll get there. Not that. Sorry, everything's a little bit slow on my end. Let's just exit this. And then... Okay. Let's see. Oh, I know we want a remote desktop into this, but THM / all right, what is going on here? Why can't I get into this? Maybe we can do an attack box, and maybe that's what we need. Oh well. All right. I'm going to go on standby for a minute while I get some stuff set up on my end. Okay. All right, I'm back. Let's just try to get in here using the attack box here. Okay. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, everybody. So, well, you know what? Let's just do this. So, let's go into this medium. I hate doing this, but I'm kind of stumped right now. Okay, so we want to use the OpenVPN profile, and then RDP in using your local machine, window will pop up, and then we want to log in using this and then username. Okay, let's see if we can do that with this. Maybe we don't need to actually do the open VPN, and then we'll go from there. I'll make sure that's set up for next live stream. I think we're probably reaching that point where we're gonna have to start doing it from a local machine. But hey, you know what? Live and learn, right? So let's see, what's our machine? So we got 10.10, and then the username should be THM/Philip. And then we'll connect up, hit yes, and then the password will be Claire 2008. All right, so now we're logged in as Philip. Cool. All right, we finally got somewhere. Awesome. Okay, so when connecting the RDP, right? Okay, so while you may be tempted to go to AD users and computers to try and test Philip's new powers, he doesn't really have the privileges to open it, so you'll have to use other methods. So we'll do PowerShell. Guys, I'm so sorry. This is really being slow today. Okay. There we go. PowerShell. And usually what we want to do is, well, this is, it says it's running as Philip. Normally we would actually want to run this as an admin. So let's see if it'll even let us. Yeah, it's not even going to let us, so that's okay. Okay. So we'll run it here. All right, and then we want to do set AD account and then tab, and it should autofill that. Okay. Auto account, password. Yeah, that's not what we want. AD account, password. Okay. Sophie, reset, new password, and then read host. You're never gonna remember all this, by the way. This is like, to try to remember all this string would be like impossible. So this is something that I would actually just like take and write down somewhere as a note. A secure string, prompt, new password. Yeah, and then verbose logging. And what else does it want us to do? So then we'd actually hit enter. It's gonna allow us to actually see what's going on here. New password, and then we just create a new password. What do we want to call it? I guess, I don't know, what was the password for here? Claire 2008, so we'll say Philip 2008. And now cannot find an object with identity Sophia under DC THM DC local. What? Cannot. Oh, Sophia, and I put it's supposed to be Sophie. Okay, so if you're wondering how I got that, I just hit the up arrow key. Sophie, not Sophia. Okay, hit delete. Now we can do it. Okay, so we're gonna name this Philip 2008. And now we're good. Okay, so now we should be able to connect up as Sophie. So what was the flag found on Sophie's desktop? Okay, so now we're gonna exit this. Yes. And we're gonna go ahead and RDP again. You know, a lot of times what this stuff is just trial and error, and figuring things out until you get it right. And that's perfectly okay, guys, just so you know. Sometimes things will stump you. THM, Sophie, and then we renamed our password to Philip 2008 once it prompts us here. What would I do if I didn't have the password correct? I'd have to go back in as Philip and reset the password once more. And that does happen. There we go. THM, thanks for contacting support. Thanks for contacting support. Submit. Okay. Process of granting privileges to user over some OU or other AD object is called, that was delegating permissions, right? Delegating control, yeah. Delegating. Delegation? Yeah, delegation. Okay. Okay. All right. Moving on. So we got managing computers in AD. By default, all the machines that join a domain, except for DCs, will be put in the container called computers. If we check our DC, we'll see that some devices are already there. We're going to exit this RDP because we don't need this anymore. All right, let's bring up our AD. Okay, so now we got computers. And you can see all the different computers that we'd have on site, maybe remotely, doesn't matter. We can see some servers, some laptops, and some PCs. So right here, you see the naming scheme, you see SRB. This is a good thing to get into, database 01, database 02, web 01. And so you see your PCs, laptops. So, excuse me. That's a really good thing to get into. You want to be naming things according to this. Usually you're not going to have things like first name. You're going to have like something like for me, for example, it would be like S Wolfslegel would be PC-S Wolfslegel 0102, etc., whatever, you know. That would be a normal naming scheme, right? And then you have the same thing for your servers. You see DB01, DB02. They did a really nice job here. This is beautiful. So we can see some servers, some laptops, and some PCs corresponding to the users in our network. Having all of our devices there is not the best idea, since it is very likely that you want different policies for your servers and the machines that regular users use on a daily basis, your endpoints. Right, exactly. So while there is no golden rule on how to organize your machines, an excellent starting point is segregating devices according to their use. In general, you'd expect to see devices divided into at least 3 categories. Workstations, which is your common devices. These are also called endpoints. So we have workstations are one of the most common devices within an Active Directory domain. Each user in the domain will likely be logging into a workstation. This is the device they'll use to do their work or normal browsing activities. Servers, the second most common device. Servers are generally used to provide services to other users or other servers. And then domain controllers, which is the third most common service or device within an Active Directory domain, right? Domain controllers allow you to manage the Active Directory domain itself. These devices are often deemed the most sensitive devices within the network, as they contain hashed passwords for all user accounts within the environment. So you want to protect these very much. You really want to protect these. They're super important. Since we're tidying up our AD, let's create 2 separate OUs for workstations and servers. Okay, so I'm going to create 2 OUs and new organizational unit. We're going to call this workstations. Okay, and then another new organizational unit, and this one's going to be servers. Okay, and so have this. Yeah, so basically we're going to take these, move the personal computers and laptops to workstations. Okay, so take these guys and let's move them into workstations. Yes. And then our servers are going to go into servers. Yes. And so now we should have them nice and organized. Perfect. Okay, so after organizing the available computers, how many ended up in workstations OU? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 total. Recommended to create separate OUs for servers and workstations? Yes. Yay. Yay. Okay. Actually, funny thing, my daughter, like, all the time, instead of saying like yes, she always says yay. She's like yay. So it's like, it's funny that happens, you know. I don't know, I just thought something I thought of as that was coming up. So group policies, so far we have organized users and computers in OUs just for the sake of it. But the main idea behind this is to be able to deploy different policies for each OU individually. So now we're starting to get into the meat of it. Group policies are one of the things that make AD what it is. So that way we can push different configurations and security baselines to users depending on their department. So Windows manages such policies through group policy objects, GPOs. GPOs are simply a collection of settings that can be applied to OUs. GPOs can contain policies aimed at either users or computers, allowing you to set a baseline on specific machines and identities. To configure GPOs, you can use the group policy management tool. So we come here, we do group, should populate, perfect, group policy management. It's also this little icon right here. So now we're in group policy management. First thing you'll see when opening it is your complete OU hierarchy as defined before, right? So right here, okay. To configure group policies, you first create a GPO under group policy objects, and then link it to the OU where you want the policies to apply. So we go to, let's just make this a little wider. There we go. Group policy objects. Pardon me. Okay, and then as an example, you can see there are already some existing GPOs in your machine. So we have default domain controller policy, default domain policy, and RDP policy. Okay, and then we have these default domain policies and RDP policies there. So these two GPOs are linked to OUs. So these ones right here, I'll open that up a little bit, and that way we can see there. And then these GPOs are created here. Okay. When we see in the image above that the 3 GPOs have been created for those, the default domain policy right here, RDP policy, yep, and the default domain controllers policy right here is linked to the domain controllers OU only. Something important to have in mind is that any GPO will apply to the linked OU and any sub-OUs under it. For example, the sales OU will be affected by the default domain policy. So sales, so if we go to sales, and then, you know, basically we have everything there under. So default domain policy applies to anything under here. So we have IT, management, marketing. That's the default domain policy, so everything underneath of this. Let's examine the default domain policy to see what's inside a GPO. Yep. Okay. So, oh, you know what? Actually, we're gonna go over here. Okay. And see what's inside a GPO. The first tab you'll see when selecting GPO shows its scope, which is where the GPO is linked in the AD. For the current policy, we can see that it only has been linked to the thm.local domain. Yep. As you can see, you can also apply security filtering to GPOs as so that they are only applied to specific users' computers under an OU. By default, they will apply to the authenticated users group, which includes all users and PCs. So we come out here to settings, let this load a second. And so you see computer configuration right here. We go down to security settings. You can see all these different policies, and then user configuration enabled. Okay. Feel free to explore the GPO and expand on the available items using the show link on the right side of each configuration. So like we could do this, and INT authority, authenticated users, read, enterprise domain controllers, read, and then system edit settings, delete, modify security. Okay. Since the GPO applies to the whole domain, any change to it would affect all computers. And let's change the minimum password length policy to require users to have at least 10 characters in their password. So we click on this, we click edit, and then scroll on down here. This will open a new window where we can navigate and edit all the available configurations. Change the minimum password length. We need to go to computer configuration, policies, right? And then Windows settings, security settings, account policies, and then password policy. And so now we need to actually set this to minimum password length needs to be 10. Just bump this up a couple, apply, and okay. And so now it's 10 characters for the whole organization. So as you can see, plenty of policies can be established in GPO. While explaining every single one of them would be impossible in a single room. Do feel free to explore a bit. So you could do enforced password history, maximum password age, minimum password age. You can also, let me see something here. So basically, you can create group policy out here. So yeah, basically you can do like block abuse of exploited vulnerable signed drivers, right? And then block and audit, and then you could actually push this out. Attack surface reduction is what this is for. But yeah, you can create, you can generate policies, and you can actually find templates as well. And this is what a lot of admins do. Well, they'll actually go out and look for templates and then create them this way, just because you don't want to go and screw something up. That could be very bad. You could really mess things up if you get too deep into this. So usually it's good to just like follow docs and go with like things that are kind of established as best practice. But you can obviously like go in here and you can adjust any of these things: account lockout, reset account lock, deployed printers, scripts, startup and shutdown. So you can create like a startup script and put it out here. PowerShell scripts. There's a ton of things you can do for group policies. Okay, so GPO distribution. GPOs are distributed to the network via a network share called sysvol, which is stored in the DC. All users in a domain should typically have access to this share over the network to sync their GPOs periodically. This sysvol share points by default to the Windows sysvol directory on each of the DCs on our network. Once a change has been made to any GPOs, it might take up to 2 hours for computers to catch up. If you want to force any particular computer to sync its GPOs immediately, you can always run the following command on the desired computer. Yeah, this is an essential command to know. GP update force. Creating some GPOs for THM Inc. As part of our new job, we have been tasked with implementing some GPOs to allow us to block non-IT users from accessing the control panel and make workstations and servers lock their screen automatically after 5 minutes of inactivity to avoid people leaving their sessions exposed. Because yes, I mean, like really, like I've worked in an environment where there's so many shared computers, and people will just leave their stuff and then just go and do things, right? In a warehouse, for example, you'll find that people will be like constantly just trying to get their work done. And so the session exposed, like this 5 minutes of user inactivity is actually a really important one to have. So good call out on TryHackMe's part. Restrict access to control panel. We want to restrict access to control panel across all machines. So we're gonna come out to, we want to go to not computer configuration, but user. And then we want to go to administrative templates, which is under, let's see, yeah, administrative templates, there we go. And then control panel, and then prohibit access to control panel, and then, you know, we would just hit enabled because we don't want them to have access to it. So notice we have enabled the prohibit access control panel and PC setting policy. So we'd hit apply, and that means basically any of our normal users are not going to be able to access control panel without an admin password and privileges, right? Notice we have enabled prohibit. Yep. Once the GPO is configured, we will need to link it to all the OUs corresponding to users who shouldn't have access to the control panel of their PCs. In this case, we'll link it to marketing, management, and sales by dragging GPO to each of them. Okay. So, yeah, so basically we want to go ahead and exit this. You know what? Hang on, we actually really don't want to do that. That's my bad. We want to go back to policies and administrative templates, control panel, and then we don't want every machine. So this would actually be not configured. Apply that. And then we actually want to create a new group policy object. And so we're going to call this prohibit access to control panel and PC settings, and click OK, and then we're going to go to edit, and we're going to say policies, administrative templates, control panel, prohibit, enabled, okay, and then exit this. Okay, so now we're back to where we want to be. So we want to be in management, marketing, and sales. And so, and actually it looks like they named this something different. So we're going to actually rename this to restrict control panel access. Really, you can name it whatever you want. It's just whatever's going to make it easiest on you. And you can see actually, you see here, policy definition retrieved from the local computer. So basically we want to go ahead and link these up with this. So drag the GPO onto it. Management, marketing, and sales. All right. Auto lock screen GPO for the first GPO regarding screen lock for workstations and servers we directly apply to workstations, servers, and domain controllers created previously. While this solution should work, an alternative exists of simply applying the GPO to the root domain, as we want the GPO to affect all our computers. So workstation servers and DCs are all child OUs of the root domain. So let's see. We want to go to let's just create a new group policy object, and let's call it auto lock screen, and then edit this, and then we would want to have policies, Windows settings, and then should be security settings, and then system maybe. Log on. Let's see. No. Well, let's just do it how I would do it. Okay. Where in GP, let's say we want to, oh, there it is. It's actually right here. But that's what I would just like look it up, where in GPO lock timeout. So, and then nice that AI shows you. So you basically would go to computer configuration policies and local policies, security options, interactive log on, machine inactivity limits. So if you follow this will tell you where to go. This is basically what I would do in a normal setting. But the nice thing is TryHackMe is actually going to show you right where you want to be at. So let's see. So we're under security settings, security options. Where are we at here? Account policies, local policies, security options, and then interactive log on. And then we'd want to do machine inactivity limit. Okay, and then define this policy setting, and we would want to have it set to 300 seconds according to what it wants here. So then we could do something like, so since it's 5 minutes, we know there's 60 seconds in a minute. 60 times 5, 6 times 5 is 30, add another 0, we know it's 300 seconds. Okay, so we can hit OK, and then now we have that group policy assigned. All right, so we'll set the inactivity to 5 minutes, right, just like it said. And then after closing it, link the GPO to the root domain by dragging the GPO to it. Okay, so exit this, bring this up here to the root, and then yes. And so now you can see it's actually part of the root. So everything under here, under thm.local, now has auto lock screen. Once the GPOs have been applied to the correct OUs, we can log in as any user in marketing, sales, or management for verification. So let's minimize this. Let's go ahead and open RDP. And then, yep, show options. And we want to have THM, mark, connect, yes. Let's see. And we want to do mark, editing. Why did they make this password so complex compared to the others? I don't even know, but hey, oh well, at least it's working, right? That's all that matters. That's all we want. Okay, and then when connecting RDP, yada yada yada, yes, if we're trying to open the control panel, we shouldn't be able to do that. There we go. Yeah, operation has been canceled due to restrictions in effect on this computer. Good. Since we didn't apply the control panel GPO on IT, you should still be able to log into the machine with any of those users and access control panel. What is the name of the network share used to distribute GPOs to domain machines? That was the sysvol, right? It's been a minute. Sysvol, yes. Okay. Can a GPO be used to apply settings to users and computers? Yay. Authentication methods. All right. So when using Windows domains, all credentials are stored in the domain controllers. Whenever a user tries to authenticate to a service using domain credentials, the service will need to ask the domain controller to verify if they are correct. Two protocols can be used for network authentication in Windows domains. Kerberos, used by any recent version of Windows. This is the default protocol in any recent domain. Okay, so this is for authentication using domain credentials, Kerberos, and then legacy authentication protocol kept for compatibility purposes, Net NTLM. Net LTM should be considered obsolete. Most networks will have both protocols enabled. Let's take a deeper look at how these protocols work. So we got Kerberos. Kerberos is the default authentication protocol for any recent version of Windows. Users who log into a service using Kerberos will be assigned tickets. Think of the tickets as proof of a previous authentication. Users with tickets can present them to a service to demonstrate they have already authenticated into the network before and are therefore enabled to use it. When Kerberos is used for authentication, following process happens. The user sends their username and timestamp, encrypted using a key derived from their password, to the Key Distribution Center, or KDC, a service usually installed on the domain controller in charge of creating Kerberos tickets on the network. Then KDC will create and send back a ticket granting ticket, or TGT, which will allow the user to request additional tickets to access specific services. The need for a ticket to get more tickets may sound a bit weird, but it allows users to request service tickets without passing their credentials every time they want to connect to a service. Along with the ticket granting ticket, a session key is given to the user, which then they will need to generate the following requests. Notice the TGT, or ticket granting ticket, is encrypted using KRB TGT, account's password hash, and therefore the user can't access its contents. It is essential to know that the encrypted TGT includes a copy of the session key as part of its contents, and that KDC has no need to store the session key, as it can recover a copy by decrypting the TGT if needed. So this is one area that I've actually been like, this is a hard thing to grasp, and I've had a hard time with it over the years, but I definitely want to focus on this a little bit more. So basically, we'll walk through it together. Basically, we have the client, the user hash, so the username and timestamp request the ticket granting ticket, and then the domain controller, which has the KDC, or the Key Distribution Center, on it, then has the hash and the user hash, and then it sends the user hash with the session key and the ticket granting ticket back. Okay, I think that's how it works. Anyway, this is complex stuff, and yeah, I mean, whoever thought of Kerberos is a freaking genius, but it's really complex. When a user wants to connect to a service on the network, like a share, website, or database, they will use their ticket granting ticket to ask the KDC for a ticket granting service. Ticket granting service are tickets that allow connection only to the specific service they were created for. To request a ticket granting service, the user will send their username and timestamp encrypted using the session key, along with the ticket granting ticket and service principal name, which indicates the service and server name we intend to access. So as a result, the KDC will send us a ticket granting service along with a service session key, which we need to authenticate to the service we want to access. The TGS is encrypted using a key derived from the service owner hash, and the service owner is the user or machine account that the service runs under. So the TGS contains a copy of the service session key on its encrypted contents so that the service owner can access it by decrypting the TGS. So we got our session key, right, and TGT. This was from the last one, and now the user wants to go ahead and request access to something, to whatever service. So now it sends back, the user sends back the username and timestamp, the TGT, and then this SPN back to the KDC, and then this is going to send back the hash, service owner hash, and this new ticket granting service and the service session key back to the client. The TGS can then be sent to the desired service to authenticate and establish a connection. The service will use its configured account's password hash to decrypt the TGS and validate the service session key. Now it's got the TGS and the service session key, authenticate to the service owner hash. Okay, yeah, I mean, very complex, super complex stuff, and I would be sitting here lying to you if I told you I understood that completely, because I really don't, and I want to get better at it. But Kerberos in and of itself is a beast, so they could make a whole, I'm sure they have a whole class on this, just this subject here, because it gets quite complex. Net NTLM authentication, this is the old way to do it. Challenge response, probably a lot less secure if I had to take a guess. So you have the client sends the authentication request to the server. The server then sends an NTLM challenge back, and then there's a hash and a challenge and then a response, and then that sends the response back to the server. Then the domain controller, the server sends the domain controller challenge and response, and then it does this NTLM hash plus the challenge, the response. Does it equal the response? Allow, deny authentication. Allow. So yeah, I mean, you can see how much less complex that is. It makes sense why they've moved on from that. So the client sends authentication to the server they want to access. Server generates a random number and sends it as a challenge. The client combines their NTLM password hash with the challenge to generate a response to the challenge and sends it back to the server for verification. And then the server forwards the challenge on the response to the domain controller for verification. The domain controller uses the challenge to recalculate the response and compares it to the original response sent by the client. If they both match, the client is authenticated, otherwise access is denied. The authentication result is sent back to the server, and then the server forwards the authentication result to the client. Note that the user's password or hash is never transmitted through the network for security. Okay, will the current version of Windows use NTLM as the preferred authentication protocol by default? Nay. When referring to Kerberos, what type of ticket allows us to request further tickets, known as ticket granting service? Ticket granting ticket. When using net NTLM, if a user's password is it transmitted over the network at any point? Nay, it's not transmitted. Okay. Now we're getting into some fun stuff. So now we got trees, forests, and trusts. So far we have discussed how to manage a single domain, the role of domain controller and how it joins computers, servers, and users. As companies grow, so do their networks. Having a single domain for a company is good enough to start, but in time, some additional needs might push you to having more than one. So thm.local, that's your domain, right? So trees, imagine for example that suddenly your company expands to a new country. The new country has different laws and regulations that require you to update your GPOs to comply. In addition, you now have IT people in both countries, and each IT team needs to manage the resources that correspond to each country without interfering with the other team. While you could create a complex OU structure and use delegations to achieve this, having a huge AD structure might be hard to manage and prone to human errors. All right, so luckily for us, Active Directory supports integrating multiple domains so that you can partition your network into units that can be managed independently. If you have two domains that share the same namespace, in this case thm.local, those domains can be joined into a tree. If thm.local domain was split into two subdomains for the UK and US branches, you could build a tree with a root domain of thm.local and two subdomains called uk.thm.local and us.thm.local, each with its AD computers and users. So this is a tree. So you have the main thm.local, now it's split into uk.thm.local and us.thm.local. So maybe you have some policies, maybe you need to comply with GDPR over here, maybe you don't in US. There's no reason unless you have certain employees from different places around the world, and then you have this main, they all belong under thm.local, but the policies that apply to this don't necessarily mean that they have to apply to the whole group. So that's an awesome thing about trees. So this partition structure gives us better control over who can access what in the domain. The IT people from the UK will have their own DC that manages the UK resources only. For example, a UK user would not be able to manage the US servers. In that way, The domain administrators of each branch will have complete control over their respective DCs, but not other branches' DCs. So maybe you have like a root admin here that has control over all of this, but then you have these ones here that just manage this, and then this one here that just manages this. So a new security group needs to be introduced when talking about trees and forests. The enterprise admins group will grant a user administrator privileges over all the enterprise's domains. So that would be this guy right up here. Each domain would still have its domain's admins with the administrator privileges over their single domains, and the enterprise admins control everything. So that's this guy. Enterprise admins are here at the top of the tree. The domains you manage can also be configured in different namespaces. Suppose your company continues growing and eventually acquires another company called MHT Inc. When both companies merge, you will probably have different domain trees for each company, each managed by its own IT department, and then the union of several trees with different namespaces into the same network is known as a forest. So we got MHT over here. So I don't know. Let's say like Google and Microsoft decided to just merge for some reason. That would happen, hopefully, because that would be a monstrosity in my opinion. But if it did, you'd have Google, and then you'd have Microsoft, and so this tree over here and this tree over here, and now you have a forest. So it makes total sense to me. I think it makes sense. I hope it makes sense to you guys. The union of several trees with different namespaces is known as a forest. So trust relationships having multiple domains organized in trees and forests allows you to have a nice compartmentalized network in terms of management and resources. But at a certain point, a user at THM UK might need to access a shared file in one of MHT Asia servers. For this to happen, domains arranged into trees and forests are joined together by trust relationships. In simple terms, having a trust relationship between domains allows you to authorize a user from domain THM UK to access resources from MHT EU. Okay, so trust relationships, kind of like a bridge. The simple trust relationship that can be established is a one-way trust relationship, and a one-way trust if domain AAA trusts domain BBB. This means that user on BBB can authorize to access resources on AAA. Okay, so we trust this person here to access our stuff, so we're going to grant you that access. So that's a one-way trust. A two-way trust can be made to allow both domains to mutually authorize users from the other. By default, joining several domains under a tree or forest will form a two-way trust relationship. So by default, joining several domains under a tree or a forest will form a two-way trust relationship. That's good. That's really important. It's important to note that having a trust relationship between domains doesn't automatically grant access to all resources on other domains. Once a trust relationship is established, you have the chance to authorize users across different domains, but it is up to you what is actually authorized or not. What is a group of Windows domains that share the same namespace called? Share the same namespace, that's a tree. What should be configured between two domains for a user and domain access to resource? Okay, so we would want between two domains for a user in domain A to access a resource in domain B. Well, we want a trust relationship, right? But I don't know if we would want to. Yeah, so we would want a one-way for this one, for a user in domain A to access a resource in domain B. A one-way trust relationship would be the answer for that one. Okay, so that's AD, and so we've got another room done. We did it. We got another room done, and we are done with the AD room. I'm excited that we're finally done with that one. That was good. A lot of really good refresher material in that. Some things I really didn't honestly know. I mean, I learned some things along the way too. Some things I've just honestly never touched. But you're never gonna know everything in this field. It's just the way things go. But it was good to like dive into this and like learn some more about AD, and yeah, some good stuff in there. Okay, so let's close out of this. Let's terminate this machine. Minimize our attack box, come back to learn. see what we got to do the next time we all get together. Okay, so the next one is going to be some cool command line stuff. We got Windows commands, PowerShell, and then Linux shell. So we've already gone over a lot of this stuff. I might just skip it and just get into the next step, especially since we've already gone into a lot of this stuff in depth. We got networking, more networking. We've done a ton of stuff with networking already. We might just dive into Wireshark next. So get into some deep, fun stuff with Wireshark. We'll see. We'll see where I go next. I might just go ahead and still continue to do some of this command line stuff, depending on what we have. So I'll explore that off camera, and yeah, we'll go from there. So it's been great chatting with you all today. Thank you so much for joining my live stream, and I'll do some more here in the next day, and we'll go from there. So hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.